Township Board of Trustees meeting, February 9th, 2021, approximately 5:30 p.m. Mr. Bernie, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Honolo?
Present.
Mr. Bernie?
Present.
All the trustees are present.
If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Bernie, can we have a financial report, please?
Yes. For the month ending January 31st, 2021, the township expenditures were $2,181,239.34, with receipts at $1,218,253.28. This gave us an ending cash balance of $20,626,257.59. This includes obligations for expenditures, payroll, regular operating costs, ongoing capital improvement projects, and investments. What I do request is a motion to approve the receipts, warrants, payroll expenditures, updated and current revenue and reports for the period ending January 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and I just want everyone to know that financial reports are available at the administrator offices during regular business hours or on our website 24/7. Thank you, Mr. Bernie.
Thank you, Mr. Bernie. Mr. Gilbert, do you have a report for us?
I do, Mr. Burning, albeit a short one tonight. It's sort of the lull between the busy season ending last year and prior to adopting our permanent appropriations budget, which will happen in March. So we're in that in-between time where we don't have a lot of action items to address tonight. However, from a discussion standpoint, I do have the personnel update. Looking in the fire department, we did have the resignation of a part-time EMT firefighter on January 15th, 2021. That was Jason Bauman. No activity in the police department. And we did have a resignation in the public works department. Scott Hatzel is a part-time laborer, January 28th, 2021, the date of that resignation. And then additionally, we had the resignation in the Arts Community Center of Camille Jones with a guest services rep, and that date of resignation was January 1st, 2021. Right now, with that being said, I'll turn it over to Kim to talk about community events and programs.
Thank you. We have two events this weekend, actually. We have a Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park pre-recorded show, and that is going to be available February 12th and 14th. I'm excited to say that the event is actually sold out twice, which is kind of unusual. They give us a certain allotment, 150 tickets. They are free tickets, but those sold out. Then they gave us a second 150, and those sold out. So they just gave us a third set of 150, and we are working on selling out those. So that is this weekend. And then also we are celebrating the I Love the Arts weekend with Arts Wave. Our building will be lit in all red on the 12th, Friday the 12th, and it is the kickoff of the Arts Wave campaign. They are fundraising for art centers across the greater Cincinnati area, and they are a big supporter of our center as well.
Thank you, Kim. The board has copies of the departmental activity reports, unless there are any questions of those. That would conclude my report. However, I would like to add one thing regarding in the Public Works Department, with the snow and ice removal that, we've had happen obviously last night and throughout this morning, but even previous events, we've had quite a few call outs to pre-treat roads, and I think it's important to note that every time there's a snow and ice call out, it is a costly endeavor for the township. Prior to last night, we were called out 13 times. So the figures I'm about to give you do not incorporate last night and this morning's cleanup efforts. To date, we've spent $98,326 on material dealing with snow and ice removal prior to last night. So that's only going to increase, obviously, when we figure out how much material we used last night. So that's just material. That does not include man hours and overtime hours to compensate those employees for coming in and doing that. So Snow and ice removal is an extremely costly endeavor. So, you know, when we go out and do pre-treat and when people can move their vehicles off the road and allow us to be a little more efficient with our time and our resources, it really helps. So I just want people to understand that that is an expensive service that we provide, a necessary one, but also a very expensive one as well. So, you know, salt is about $75 a ton, and, you know, you figure one snowplow and one route probably throws how much, Mike?
8 tons.
8 tons. So that's just one plow, one route, and we have, how many routes?
12.
12 routes. So you can imagine every time they go out, that's a lot of money being thrown on the road. So we do our best to be as efficient as possible with that material. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And then also I think, you know, it's important to note that as the township continues to try and leverage road district dollars to improve roads, last year we received almost $2 million in state grants in order to fix roads. This year we received another $2.4 million. So those are for very specific projects that are eligible through the state capital improvement program. And so right there is, you know, just $5 million in grant funding, not to mention the $5 million that has to be matched. So in 2 years, you're looking at almost $10 million in projects, which is huge. So we're making headway as it relates to fixing roads in the community. So just wanted to make that aware and congratulate Mike Gould on another successful application campaign and grant process with Skip. So that concludes my report, unless there are any questions of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Next, we have a few resolutions. Resolution number 16-2021, adopting the estimates and specifications reported by the county engineer for improvement to Pine Hollow Lane, Fernwell Drive, and Foxcross Drive, approving and confirming the assessments for such improvement, and ordering that the improvement proceed. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Then we have resolution number 17-2021, adopting the estimates and specifications reported by the county engineer for improvement to Schuman Lane and Hall Ridge Court, approving and confirming the assessments for such improvement and ordering that the improvement proceed. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, a resolution number 18-2021, supplemental temporary appropriation in the Coronavirus Relief Reimbursement Fund, number 2273, and approving cash advance from general fund to Corona's Relief Reimbursement Fund, number 2273. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next is resolution number 20-2021, declaring nuisances pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87 at various listed properties within Springfield Township and authorizing statutory actions necessary to abate the nuisances. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw. We'll go back and do the
Aye.
other one.
Yeah.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
I think we skipped 19.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'll go back and do it. Next, we have resolution number 19-2021, authorizing sale by internet auction of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in the police department. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Okay, those are our resolutions. Do we have any old business before the board?
I do not.
I do not.
Any new business before the board?
I do not.
I do not.
Okay, now is the time for citizens' participation. If you could come up to the podium and state your name and address, if you have something to tell the board, talk to the board about, we'd be happy to hear you.
I think so, yeah.
My name is Henrietta Goldie. I live at 8865. Can I take it off?
Sure.
Yes,
I feel like
I have to do when I speak also.
I live at 8865 Mockingbird Lane. I've been there 24 years. And when I first moved out there, it's a beautiful neighborhood. The people kept their lawns up, safe. It's still quite safe. My issue is, and I'm a former landlord myself, I used to be a member of two separate real estate groups, the Queen City Real Estate and the Cincinnati REIA, and I do plan to join them. The issue that I'm having with the neighborhood now is the absentee landlords that have taken a course on the internet and they're buying a property in our neighborhood. And I'll give you 3 examples in the last probably year and a half of how bad things are. Down the street from me, between Cottonwood and Fountain Blue, somebody moved out and there was mattresses and stuff on the lawn for like 6 weeks. Just because it wasn't a rumpy issue. They put out furniture and stuff like that, and that was left there. Also, between Fountain Blue and Cottonwood, I called the former owner, Ed Bueller, because he was a real estate agent person when I was active. That property has some big, like, drainage thing sitting in the middle of it, and it hasn't had grass around it for, like, months or years. It just looks awful. It's just a big thing with all, the lawn is going every kind of way, and it's just been like that for months and months. So I called Mr. Bueller, and he said he sold it. And I talked to the young man, and he's going to try to sell it this spring. But apparently, he's a young person who went up to look at his property, looks crappy. There's also between, on Mockingbird, between Cottonwood and Fountain Blue, a home that is, it just looks like something out of a third world country. The people have planted plants, and they've got all kinds of junk and everything all on the side and the front of the place, and it just looks awful. It's just really, and they're also, I think, tenants. Now, I personally called on the property that had the mattresses for 6-7 weeks, but they said that took time, and they did eventually come get it. I've also had to call on property that's kind of kitty-cornered from me, about 3 doors down and across. Their grass grew last year to over a foot. And I had to contact y'all, and y'all eventually took care of it. To the right of me, between I live between Cottonwood and Constance. At Constance going the other way toward John Will, there's this family, and I don't want to say who the names, but they don't have a porch, but that's not the baddest thing. They have this like wooden thing with no porch, no rails. That's not the baddest thing. They have dogs, and even though I haven't seen the dogs running around, looks like they had a shepherd or something, I've seen big piles of waste in their front yard. And I kind of peeked in the backyard, and they got this shed that's falling apart. The front looks totally neglected, and they had I hope they don't come after me, because this probably is being recorded. They had an old white van that sat in there for months. And I called on that too. Very sadly, also between Constance and the next street, I think it's John Quill, I can't really. There was this house that kept growing grass, and there kept being newspapers everywhere, and y'all kept putting notes on the property. Well, finally, and this may have been a year and a half or 2 years ago, it's recent though. I drove by and I saw this red thing, this canopy, and these people, I said, what are you doing? They said, well, we found this lady. She'd been there 5 weeks on the floor. She had kind of melted into the woodwork, into the kitchen floor. She was an older person. She was 81 years old. But the whole time that property was being neglected and the newspapers were building up, no one checked. You know, that was an elderly person's home. Nobody checked on this lady, and they said they're going to have to replace the floor. here is, I don't want to deprive, what do you call those people, investors. That's how I used to be an investor, but it seems like I could take pictures, and I will, and I can go to just about every investor-owned property in our immediate neighborhood, and then take pictures of the people next door and across the street that's our homeowners, and you can really tell the difference. I think it's brought down our neighborhood considerably. The people next to me are quite nice, but I did have to talk to them, and they fixed the problem. They were painting their house bright blue. Bright blue. And I said, this doesn't fit in. And so they did paint it kind of an off orange. And then the people right next to them on the right, they painted their house, and it's still that way. But actually, it was kind of nice, but it has affected our property. Chinese red. And where the bricks mortar, they have white. And here's another thing. The lawns and the trees in Finneytown tend to be beautiful, but my neighbors, not all of them, but a lot of them, have taken to doing their own pruning. So they'll have a tree, a once beautiful tree, partially cut and hanging on somebody's property. Or they'll take the neighbor right across from me, I think her name was Gall, Mrs. Gall. Her husband is her son is a CPA. That property was so beautiful on the corner, right on the corner of Constant Mockingbird. But the people who are living there, they're not owners, they're renters. They're some kind of lease with option. They have chopped this tree, this beautiful 60-foot, gorgeous, majestic tree. They've chopped it up in all kinds of funny ways. And their, what do you call this? I think it's their gutter has been missing for like a year. And the young man came over and told me, well, we can't afford to fix the gutter. But their son and my grandsons are friends, and they just bought a $700 iPhone for a kid. But it's just like it's, we don't own it. Yeah, we're on lease with option, but we really don't own it. And I just want to say this, and I say this in all kindness, but Mrs., I think her name was Gall, G-A-U. She had an American flag outside of her house. Her house was beautiful. Her husband was a veteran. She was a member of St. Bart's Catholic Church. She went to Mass almost every day. She paid somebody to keep her house up because she couldn't do it anymore. She died at 88. But the neighborhood has deteriorated. And my only request, I realize there's not much a township could do, but we're having an onslaught. I had to not answer my phone because the people are trying to buy up my property. They say cash, we'll pay cash, blah, blah, blah. But they don't keep it up. I could take pictures of every run-down looking house just about in Mockingbird. And I was there in the neighborhood, including Melody, and I rode through the neighborhood, Melody, John Quill, I think I did Monsanto, or whatever you call it, all those. And I can tell you, you can tell the rental property. And it's bringing down the property values. And I know there's limited what you could do, but at least I think when somebody comes in and buys the property, and it's HCG Corporation, and they're buying all this stuff from, what do you call it, they're buying it from the banks, and they're buying it. But these people tend to have no motivation in the neighborhood. And Finneytown is still a nice neighborhood. I like it because I can walk to shopping, I can walk to several churches, I can walk to the bus stop. I used to work downtown. I'm a retired government worker, and I used to work downtown. I won't say what I did for a living. But I could park my car and drive down, and the school is very convenient. We're very close to Whitfield. But now it's becoming, the section where I am are the starter homes, that in North Hill, where you get the inexpensive homes. I have a nice little ring. The investors are just sweeping in there, and they're buying up the property, and they're not putting anything back in it. And they don't visit, they don't come by, they do minimum. So it is my hope that, and I know this has been a hot issue with a lot of investors, including Bridget Cox Jones, because she owns not Queen City, she owns Cincinnati Rib. But I think at least the investors need to register, and we need a real person to contact if their property is bad. The only reason why I knew about Ed Bueller's property is because we used to be in the same organization at the same time. But you can't even contact these landlords because their property is ZKY. And I just want to say, the one thing I have done, when I find out it's a property or LLC, I go on to the state of Ohio, what do you call it, Commerce Department, and I can find out who incorporated it. And if they've incorporated, they at least have to have an agent, and I've been able to send, for other reasons, I've been able to send certified mail return receipt to their agent that's here in Ohio. But trying to get the owners, it's just that they took a course. It is my hope that that Springfield Township will do some kind of monitoring of the absentee landlords.
And we do. And there's a lot to unpack there. So what I would like to do, if possible, is get your name. Obviously, we have your name, but get your phone number after the meeting, and I'll have our staff that's responsible for property inspections reach out to you and get those specific addresses so we can address the acute issues that you talked about. So you identified some very specific issues with properties, then you talked about a broader issue, right? So the broader issue, I will just say, is a difficult one to manage, as you've already, explained. But we have databases here. As a former government official, you can appreciate that we have ways to get in contact with people that most people don't. So we do get in contact with these property owners. We do, every time there's a violation, send a certified letter with, return receipt requested. We do that to the individuals that you're even referring to. And we go one step further. We actually find their phone number. We call them. We find out who they are. But yeah, these are very difficult issues. And unfortunately, as you already indicated, as a governmental entity, it's somewhat limiting what we can do when someone wants to voluntarily sell their private property to another person who is voluntarily buying that private property. However, we do have a minimum, standard by which properties have to be maintained, some of which you explained we can control with those codes, some of which we can't, and that's purely because there are limitations to government overreach. So the color of someone's house that they want to paint it, while it may be offensive to you, is probably not a government's within our purview to require someone to paint a house a certain color.
That's not my complaint.
No, I know that. I'm giving that as an example of there are things that we can control and things we can't. There's a lot of what you described that I think we can address, some of which we can't. That was one of the things that I know that we can't. So my point is, probably the best way to address a lot of these things is let us get your number after the meeting. The staff that we have every day that deals with these issues, I'll have them reach out to you, and then they'll work with you directly to address a lot of them.
Thank you. One of the things I'm going to take into my hand, I talked to some landlords when I was looking at this property. There's this lady that lived on Mockingbird and something, I don't know if it's John Field or next year. She's a beautiful corner house, and she had all these birds. Anyway, she was 80-some years old, found out she passed. I noticed her house didn't look pretty this year. And real estate agents will come and look at the house, and the neighbor came walking down the street, 2 neighbors, not one, and said, "Oh my God, I hope they don't rent this Section 8. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get on social media. And I think it's perfect legally for me to take pictures of run-down houses. And I think that the neighbors, the homeowners, I'm going to try to organize it. I don't know what we're going to do, but my goal is to organize the homeowners. I don't know what we can do. I don't know how we can do it. But I think, I was telling this landlord, he was complaining about some of the tenants that moving in. And I said, well, we got to get together. Thank you very much. I know I'm fighting for votes, so thank you.
One other thing you might want to do is, like some of the things you said, were going on for months, and when you reported them, when you see nuisance properties, like if the grass gets a half a foot, because it does take us some time to go through the legal process to be able to go cut it. So when you do see something that's awry in a home or something, like a gutter being gone, the sooner you contact us, the faster we can react and, okay.
We have, our neighbors across the street are also from Deliverance, on the corner of Constant and Mockingbird. They put furniture out, literally, for months, and they'll put their garbage cans and leave them out, and we did do that. And so the house looked so bad, one time I went and talked to the lady, she says, oh, my mother is saving up money to invest in the market. I mean, not in this house, when you got they had, my neighbors who live on one corner had a, what do you call it? Their portable air conditioner was being held up by soup cans. So, thank you very much. I'm going to leave, but thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, there's nobody else to do citizens participation, so can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So, seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Meeting adjourned.